Welcome to Being Extraordinary with Akasha Awaken. Here we awaken the Akash to the non-physical reality that stores ancient wisdom and magic for us all. This podcast is dedicated to the stories, the knowledge, and the people who have found a way to tap into this knowledge and bring it into our physical reality, fully allowing themselves to embrace our true and extraordinary nature, and hopefully inspiring you to do the same. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Being Extraordinary. Today, I have a very special guest. It is my sister, Alyssa. And I really wanted to have you on here because you have been on this incredible journey of like finding and cultivating joy. You are a registered nurse, you have your career kind of down pat, you've been enjoying that. And you can share a little bit about that journey if you want to. But you've really been on this quest of self-growth and joy, and like you've freaking nailed it. And it came in like the most unexpected way. I think we're always told joy and happiness looks like this, and you have to do these things to be happy. And you've really found your own way into this. So I really wanted to capture that. So anyway, welcome to you, Alyssa. And if you want to give us a little bit of background, like how your journey started and where you're at, I'd love to hear it.
All right. Hi. Yeah, so I mean it's been like a lifelong thing, I would say, but it's really been like this past like I don't even know, like 10 months, 9 months. I feel like it's been like I've all of a sudden had this like insane urge and desire to like find this like sense of like joy and like just who I really am, honestly. And like if I'm being completely honest, I feel like it all started when I took your goddess course in when was that? May-ish?
Yeah, May and April.
So
And fuck yeah, that course was crazy.
like I can't even sing enough praises, honest to God. And it started with that. So the goddess I worked with was Aphrodite. And like
Which was
contrary to
super
popular,
cringy for you. You
yes,
were like,
so
no, not
cringy.
this bitch.
I know. And it's like I knew that that was probably what it was going to be, but like it didn't make me want to just like crawl under a rock any less. Like so so I was like very uncomfortable with this, which is exactly how I knew that that's what I needed. And like contrary to popular belief, it was all about like self-love. And like honestly, the biggest thing that like she taught me first was that like I needed to like slow down and like feel life essentially and like feel every moment. And like it like started with like feeling like all of the like your senses, like really feeling the music you were listening to and really like stopping and like listening to like the bird and the wind. It seemed so cheesy, but it really worked. So it was all about like, yeah, slowing down. And then it made me like just like completely like see my life and view my life better. So I feel like it started there. And then I really have always been told a lot that like in readings and like my life that like I'm creative and I need to find this creative outlet. And it was just like something that I could never connect to because I had no idea what that looked like for me. I was always like in this mindset of like, I'm a terrible singer. I can't draw to save my life. Like I just like was so wrapped up in like the very practical applications of being creative that I was like, this is nonsense. I don't understand what anyone's talking about. But then like I realized that like that's a very narrow way to think about being creative, is that like it's a lot to do with like how you like express yourself and like what like I don't even know, like, yeah, how you express yourself and how you view the world and like how you decorate your space and how you like dress yourself in the morning. And
Mhm.
honestly, my biggest form of like self expression and being creative right now is like I found that in reading. Like,
Yes.
I found this like newfound joy for like reading, and then I start to like be like, I have this main character energy type of thing.
Yes.
Um, and it just like helped me like kind of hone in on all my moments, and it's become like a huge like creative outlet for me to like read and to like imagine the things that I'm reading, to the point that I even like created an account on Instagram to like kind of like I don't know, create content about how much I love reading. And like it's a totally like a huge community. It's called Bookstagram. It's like a thing that like reading does for people. So that's kind of been where it's taken me. And it's been like amazing. Like I can't even begin to explain how like much more like connected to myself and like my like creative outlet
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
And I
Yeah.
imagine like when you're reading it, it all ties in, right? Like when I'm listening to this, it's kind of like, oh, well, when you're reading a book, there's so much description and like presence in every character and every scene so that you really are able to see it. And that translates super well. So like what Aphrodite was working with you on like feeling your moments and like seeing how each moment that we're a part of is like perfectly curated for our story. And then of course, that makes you more present in general because you're just like, oh, the wind is whispering and like like the sun's hitting the plant leaves so beautifully. Like that's such a cool connection. Like I think that's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. And it's so true. Like I just feel like being able to like read how like specific and beautiful the moments are in books, it's like helped me to kind of like zoom out and be like, that's like real life, you know, like every moment can be that beautiful and that like pure if you just like take note of it, really. And like that's
Yeah.
something that like I feel like reading has taught me. And it's also just like really helped me like embrace kind of like slowing down and just like appreciating my life for what it is instead of like always rushing on to the next thing. Cause that was definitely what I was doing prior to like the goddess course and everything like that. Like I just felt like I was like, go, 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 you know, always looking for like the next big thing, you know, when like really the most joy I've been able to find is in like the little things and just like the way that my life is right now, you know, instead of always
Mm-hmm.
trying to look for something bigger and better.
Yes, that's so true. And then does it make you like almost see yourself as like a main character in a novel? Like when you're at your house and you're like sipping coffee and you're doing this, you're just like, yeah, like shit, I'm in my own book right now.
Like totally. And like I just really feel like it has made me like love myself more, honestly, because I like see myself as like, yeah, like a main character. It sounds kind of like cheesy when you say it out loud, but like it's so true. Like I just like can appreciate my life. And it really is like, I don't know, one of the things also is like, you know, like in like books when there's like that love interest and like the way that like they talk about that person and look at that person, you're like, man, that's me. Like I'm that person. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's been really helpful for like how I like view myself and my life, but also like
Mhm.
just yeah, like that genuine like I don't know, like how to be content with my life essentially.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool. I love that. And what was I going to say? And then you created a Bookstagram account and it's almost become a creative outlet as well, like you said, because you're able to like create these really moody scenes that capture the essence of the book. Is that true? Like I'm following your account and I'm always like, damn, this girl's got art in her veins. Like it's so moody. I love it.
Yeah, like so honestly, like I really love it. Like it's just so fun to like kind of create like the scene or like the vibe for a book like based off of like how I create my posts. And like you can
Mhm.
like pick music and it just is like so much more than I thought it was. It's been like so fun to have this creative outlet and to like talk about like this newfound love and it's like this whole like community and it's
Mhm.
been so like fulfilling to be able to like create and be able to like I don't know what the right word is like show
Express.
everyone
Yeah.
express yeah like it showed like express how this book made me feel through like a moody post essentially, you know.
God, that's so cool. And it really helps. I think there's a lot of people that constantly are invited or asked to find their hobby. You should get a hobby. You should do something with your hobbies. And when we think of hobbies, we're like something athletic or create like art. You have to become a painter. Like those are the two things. Like for me, I can't speak for everyone, but when someone said something about finding a hobby, yeah, sports or art, and then it's kind of like, well, that's pretty narrow. None of that's really calling to me. And you found this niche where it's like it's not traditionally creative, but yet it is, and you're helping me even see that like my entire business is a creative outlet, so making a social media post or designing your website or creating a community, it's all creative. Like anytime you're putting your energy into something, it's creative.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I feel like it's probably from like a young age, just like instilled in our brains that like being creative means like XYZ and that's it. Like you have to be like either, yeah, like an athlete, or you have to like be able to like produce like a physical,
Mhm.
tangible thing in order to be considered creative, you know? Whereas like being able to like step back and view like everything, like your whole existence as creative, and like being able to like really see that like, you know, even just when you're reading a book and the scenes you create in your mind is creative, it just really helps you like, I don't know, like connect to everything you're doing and like view it as this like beautiful project instead of like doing it so mindlessly sometimes. And like
Ah.
it has helped me like not to take everything for granted and just be like, wow, like I want to put my time and energy into everything because it's like all an expression of who I am, you know? Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, that's super well said. That's very cool. And I feel like I need a little bit more of that in my life because I consider myself actually fairly creative, but it's hard when you're a business owner because you constantly feel like you have to be working and maintaining that because you never know when the other shoe's going to drop, right? But I'm constantly rushing through things, and I definitely can spend some time being like moderately, I don't want to say ungrateful, but I've achieved these milestones. But when you're not present and slowing down, you're easy to be like, okay, well, what's the next goal? I gotta keep running, I gotta keep racing. And it can be like a really difficult like trap to fall into because when you're not present, it's so easy to let your ego run the show, right? Where it's like, or you're like, oh, this isn't good enough, or I can't believe that person didn't help me with this, or blah blah blah. And like when you're actually slowing down and feeling things, it seems like you just naturally evoke gratitude.
Totally. Like I also like I feel like it's like a natural state to be in is to be like rushing and always looking for like the next thing that's going to be happening in your life, the next thing to work towards. I feel like that's just maybe like the nature of our society also. So like to slow down, like it just like you see everything so much like clear, and you can like appreciate all the little things. And it's like also, yeah, it helps with like gratitude. And like sometimes that's like a hard place. Like it's like I do consider myself a very grateful person, but sometimes it like is hard to like discern between being like grateful and like settling and not wanting more, you know? And I feel like
Yeah.
that sometimes is like a, yeah, like you said, like a trap that like we kind of get pulled into, as being like, well, if I'm grateful for where I'm at, then like it means I'm settling and I don't want more. But like that's not inherently true.
No. And I think that I'm super prone to that trap. Like I do believe that, we are infinitely abundant people and we deserve the moon and more, and that the universe is willing to provide that to you as long as you ask for it and you align to it. And then no having that as like a solid definition in my mind, really it's like, where does gratitude fit on the scale? Because if I say that this is good enough, I don't want to get stuck here. And so I can sometimes skip the gratitude part, but I think it ruins my success, like not success, but then when I hit a milestone, I don't appreciate it at all, and it's like Kayla 5 years ago, if she knew, if you went back and told her what I was going to be doing in 5 years, she would have been fucking so impressed and excited. But yet I'm here in that moment and I'm not really celebrating it to the degree that I probably should be, which needs to change. But I I think you have to understand too like what people are working on, and I feel like sometimes I can karmically end up absorbing a role that I'm expected to play, whether that's the good daughter, the good sister, the good friend. And then I do forget what I'm trying to do because I'm so concerned about maintaining the expectations of others. And that's just my shitty karma that I'm working through. So like I do get scared that if I'm not constantly thinking about what I want, that I could get sucked into these vortexes. But like, have I ever, like you've known me your entire life, have I ever not been motivated to accomplish the next thing, right? Like I know that's not true. So yeah, being present. And do you have any like tricks how to get present, or is it something you've really cultivated over time?
Um, Honestly, I don't know if I have any like specific tricks, but like if I could just pass on like Aphrodite's insight, because it worked for me. It's not saying that's gonna work for everyone, but like just like really like stopping and just like really using your like five senses, like pay attention to the moment. That was where it started. And at first it seemed really like kind of like awkward almost, just be like sitting there thinking about what was going on in the world. But like I think that comes from like the natural rush of our world, you know, like it feels like
Mm.
a quote unquote like a waste of our time to just sit there and like pay attention, you know?
Yeah.
Like it seems like you can think of all the things that you should be doing, but like I started there to just like start to pay attention to the world. And then it was just kind of like a slow progression after that. Like once I started to like just stop and like appreciate my life, it just started to like kind of naturally unfold. Um, and it's not that I'm not susceptible to like slip out of that state, you know, like it definitely still happens, but it's like more natural for me to be in it now rather than not, which is like definitely a huge change for me because that is not how I was before. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I could give any type of tip. I think I would just pass on Aphrodite's advice because it
Mm-hmm.
works for me. And then also I think it just is like a thing that like just like makes you come alive, honestly, whatever it is. Like for
Yeah.
me, it is like reading. Like I love it. It is like this thing that I like have come to like use almost to like help define who I am. It's like a huge part of me now. And like
Mm.
that naturally kind of helps you become more in touch with who you are and like your life, I would say.
Yes.
So, but I mean, that's way easier said than done, obviously, to just like find that thing. But that's something that's definitely helped me too. So,
And I think like the coolest thing for me to watch, as your sister, is like it just started with the slowdown. It wasn't like this pressure to find something creative. It just started with the slowdown. And then I feel like as you slow down, you can sort of hear like the whispers of your soul being like, why don't you
yes.
read? Why don't you just sit and be cozy? Why don't you get a cup of coffee and flip those pages and feel them between your fingers? And then you get like engrossed in reading, and then you find your community online, and then you're like, shit, I could be a creator here, you know? And it's like,
Yes.
so it's like stepping stones. You don't have to have it all figured out, but like as it sound like as I and I see it all the time, but I especially saw it in your case because it was like the slowdown, and then the inspiration just hit like crazy, and you didn't have to have a plan. It just came, which I think is what everybody wants, right?
Yeah. Like, and that's so interesting that you say that because sometimes I like forget that it just kind of like was this natural occurrence, you know? Like, I never thought that like me kind of just like slowing down and being more present would lead to me having this like book account that has come this like huge creative outlet and finding this community. Like those were never two things that I connected in my brain, but like they kind of like one thing followed another, you know? And like something you said just reminded me of like another stepping stone in there somewhere where I was just like, I had this realization that I was like, you see online these people like making these like fancy coffees and like living like in a super cozy house and stuff. You're just like, I can actually decide that like you can have that for yourself. You know, you can just decide that you are actually worthy of like making a super bougie coffee every morning. And
Yes.
like you can just like create this like version of your home or your life that like is worthy of you. You know, it doesn't have to be some like big feat. It's not like it's hard to make a fancy coffee every morning, but like it made me feel so good because it was like, you know what, I'm worthy of that. Like this is actually my life now. You know, I'm actually just that person that like spends like a couple of hours in the morning just like being with myself and making myself a coffee and reading a good book cozied up under my blankets, you know, like I can just like live that life. You know, it was just like this realization that like you really can just like create the life that you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't
And
have to
then,
be this like big feat sometimes, you know. It's
yeah.
all about the little things, you know.
And two things that come to mind with that is like number one, like as I said a minute ago, I feel sometimes at the mercy of what I'm expected to be. And if you're a wife, if you're a husband, if you're a parent, if you have, your own parents need your attention, sometimes it is the perfect excuse. And please note that I'm saying it's the perfect excuse not to give yourself that kind of time. But I will speak this louder than anyone. It's like, unfortunately, as a soul in this human experience, if your being didn't matter, you wouldn't see the world through your eyes and it'd be in your body. We are so good at prioritizing everybody else, and we're at the bottom of the totem pole. And then we wonder why our health is depleted, why we don't feel loved, we don't feel appreciated. because you set that pace by not loving yourself, by not appreciating yourself, by giving yourself every excuse in the book not to. And I'm guilty of that too. It's about progress, not perfection. But then the second thing that comes to mind is like, when you talk about expressing yourself in those moments, I think it'd be worthwhile to say, like, you're just authentically you. You're not like scrolling Pinterest being like, well, what does a cozy space look like? How can I be on trend? I need to buy all these new things to fit in that box to be like Instagram worthy or Pinterest worthy. But like your house is cozy as fuck, but it's like all you all day. So if you're like okay with talking about what makes you feel cozy and comfortable, like it's not it's not on Pinterest. It's you.
It's so true. Yeah. Like, I guess I forget that, like, in my mind, that like my house is so me, and like not everybody would find it as like cozy and perfect as I do. It's like a super old house, and I have like Halloween decorations up literally all year round because I love that. You know? Or like I have like this super old vintage table that I got from like somebody off of Facebook Marketplace from, and he told me this story about how it was his like dead grandmother's. And I love this table because like, I feel like I can just like feel the energy of the like grandparents used to sit and play crib at this table. And so it's like I adore it. You know, there's just these little things in my life that I just like adore. And it's like I've just like crafted this like life that I love, you know?
Yeah.
So I
And
feel like yeah.
you've just like put yourself into everything. And instead of being like, well, is this on trend? Yeah, you've just skipped all that nonsense and you've just allowed it to be your space. Like you have like purple kind of Halloweeny, like Christmas lights up all year. You
Yeah.
have books everywhere, cozy crocheted blankets. You created a coffee nook. And it didn't happen like overnight. You know, it's you just actually bought things and curated things based on like what you wanted at that time. And I'm pretty sure the only way we know what we want, quote unquote, is if we're slowing down enough to be like, how does this make me feel? And, you know, do I really love this coffee mug? Do I really love this skeleton decoration? Do I really love, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I know so many people, and I can get sucked into that too, where it's like, everything has to match and the color of the year is rose, so it should be rose. And then you create this space and you're like first of all, it's overwhelming to be in a choosing conformity anyway, because then you're never going to be caught up on the trend, because they design new trends every 6 months so that you are never caught up and you become the ultimate consumer, right? Everything's
Yeah.
perfectly strategized to keep you consuming and buying. And like when I was, I think, the freest or the happiest I've ever been, I felt like, yeah, I felt like the main character, and I was just doing things because I wanted to. And it felt good and it felt like me. But then the universe has, or the world, society, I'm not gonna say the universe, society has this way of like beating it out of you. And I allowed it to happen. So I feel like this last few years for me has been like refinding those things that aren't on trend or they don't make sense, but they just like feel good to me. So it's like crazy how you have to be able to stop and listen to really know.
Exactly. And I feel like, yeah, like if I think about like even, oh my God, I guess that's probably been like, I don't know, like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, like in no way, shape, or form did my space feel like it does now. It's definitely been like a slow
No.
progression. But yes, I feel like when you said that, like you have to like slow down enough to like actually be able to like hear what your soul is like whispering to you that like you need and that like you love and what makes you feel good. Like I feel like that is key because sometimes it's just like you get so wrapped up in your life that like you can't even like stop and like listen to hear what it is that like makes your heart and your soul happy, you know? And so I feel
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, it's just been this like slow progression and all of a sudden, yeah, slowing down has led to me like living this beautiful life and like I feel like my life itself maybe hasn't even changed that much, just maybe how I view it. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
I feel like it's both. Like you've made some big changes when it comes to like what, like how you present yourself and what's acceptable and not acceptable. Like I don't know where the light went off where you were just like, nah, I deserve better than this. And then you've like with like stone stepping, right? It started
Yeah.
with like making big changes in what you were doing in your life, but then it's like that slowdown to actually like appreciate how far you've come. I feel like was like the massive
Yeah.
advancement. And then you also said like being present within yourself has helped you with like your actual physical health too.
Yeah. Like and this is like probably the most recent development I would say is like, I don't know even really where it happened or what brought it on, but yeah, like the slowing down, being present. I feel like I can like hear that like I deserve better than just as like what is most convenient to me. And in a world, or sorry, yeah, like in a society that is like go, 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 and like always like trying to just get to the next place fast enough. It's like a lot of times convenience is key, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
happens. But I feel like, and as a shift worker, like I am an RN, so it's like I am easily susceptible to that. But like I just had this realization that it's like, you know what, like my body deserves to be treated as like so much more than just like the last priority. You know, like it
Mm-hmm.
deserves to be like nourished and fueled. And like I just deserve better than that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so and I am like definitely, definitely guilty of like after a long shift, like just come home and like order skip, like skip the
Yeah.
dishes because it's easy and I'm exhausted and I, you know, thought of all of these reasons why that was the best choice for me. And then all of a sudden I just was like, but like I deserve better than just what is like the easiest option. You know, like
Yeah.
I want to actually sit and think about like what I want right now. And 9 times out of 10, it's not skip. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, there it is sometimes. But like, I don't know, that has been something that is like the newest development. And that is like a massive shift for me because I have always, always made my physical health my last priority. It's always been like my spiritual, my mental, my emotional. Like, absolutely, I will prioritize those day in and day out. But like my physical health, like, I just like couldn't grasp how to like view it appropriately that like I could just like actually value it, which sounds terrible, but it's the truth. Like I just, yeah, like I have always been like, you know what, like my body is the least important thing about me. And like, well, there's a value to, you know, to be said in that, but like then it made me not value it at all, you know?
Right. Exactly. And when you were speaking, it reminded me too, like, so I used to hate cooking. I used to hate cooking. I used to just find it time consuming. You'd have to go to the store and get your fucking ingredients. Like, ah, but as I've learned to slow down a little bit and actually ask myself, what do I want to eat? I've found like cooking kind of like this creative outlet as well. And one of the biggest culprits, and I know there are people listening that do this too, is like I would be like, well, what is the best meal for this family? You know, what will my spouse eat? And if you have kids, I'm sure you're like, well, I got to make something my kids eat. I completely stopped doing that. And me and my partner do not have the same palate at all. And I've just been like, fuck it. If he wants what he wants, he can make it. Like, I want this. And then once you're doing it for you and to nourish your body, oh, the love that goes into cooking, the love that it goes into like what you're buying and what you're consuming, oh, it's a 180. And it reminds me of like the traditional teachings of food that we have to like honor and pay respect to the plants and the medicine that the plants bring, or if you consume meat, the animal that literally lost its life for you, and like really give that like love and into everything that you do and that gratitude. And I feel that within myself now. I don't eat very much meat except for the stuff that dad brings. our dad our dad lives way up north and he's a hunter fisherman, so he'll bring us meat sometimes. So that's the only thing I eat really. But oh, the love. And I actually find cooking kind of fun now. Like I look forward to it because it's like an art form as well. And it's kind of joyous when you're doing
Totally.
it for you.
Yeah. And I feel like there's two things I was gonna say is that like one, I can imagine that like, yeah, having like a partner and having kids, like that makes, you know, like that added hurdle, you know? And I feel like, so it's probably like noteworthy to say that like it doesn't have to be this like big shift, you know what I mean? But it's like if you're going to put in that thought and effort to like serve your children or your partner what they want, like you can, I feel like it's, yeah, like you said, worthwhile to mention that like you also deserve to serve yourself something that you deserve and want, you know? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like the whole meal, but like just something, just a little piece of it for yourself, you know? And I feel like
Yeah.
that is like, it all adds up, right? And then I was going to mention that, like, yeah, I've seen you like had this 180 when it comes to like, yeah, like cooking and like valuing your meals and what you deserve to eat. And I feel like
Mhm.
honestly, like that is something that I can, definitely take out of your book and learn from you because that's still a work in progress for me. It's like while I can see that, it still is like something that I need to apply in my life, and
Yes.
I do like cooking and I do think it is an art form, and I've started like, like having a glass of wine when I cook and like putting on music and it being like a whole vibe, like a whole thing,
Yeah, that's what I do too.
And
Sometimes I'll
yeah,
like crack a beer or I will, yeah, definitely music needs to be in there. And it's just like your own little world, you know?
yeah.
And when I cook, like I don't like to monitor multiple things. So like everything I cook is like stir fry or soups or stews, where it's just kind of like one thing that I have to manage. And it makes it way less overwhelming.
Totally. And honestly, I'm the first to say that like I'm really not a good cook. So this is definitely a work in progress for me. My friend came over the other day and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to make her supper." And it turned out so bad. It wasn't even hard what I tried to make, but I tried to make her like honey garlic chicken in the crock pot and I've like used my crock pot like twice in my life. And so I like definitely overcooked it and she was like, "Wow, this is so good." Like it totally wasn't. So, anyways, this is definitely a work in progress, but it's still fun for me. I was able to like laugh at myself and be like, well, that wasn't it, but we'll try again next time, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
having fun with life and not constantly on the
yeah,
search of perfection because it doesn't exist.
exactly. And I know, like, so we both have Virgo moons, so we're very
Hmm.
prone to being hypercritical of ourselves, but also other people.
Hmm.
And so, like, that strive for perfection is so real sometimes, And I feel like something that I learned recently, or it's a work in progress to continuously apply this to my life, but like, just to like not be so hard on myself when I'm being hard on myself. Like,
Hmm.
just to, instead of like complete, like, always, it's like a vicious cycle is like, I beat myself up for, making a poor meal,
Hmm.
but then I'm like mad at myself that I did that. So it's like this never ending cycle and even just being able to like slow down and be like, you know what, like it's all going to be fine and sometimes life isn't that serious, okay, just chill out
Yes.
for 5 seconds,
Yes.
like
And that Virgo moon, for real, I'll catch myself being too critical and then I'm mad that I've been too critical and I can't let go of that
yeah,
part. Like stop being critical, but you're still being very critical. Like I know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
really hard. It really is. And life can be like such a playground and we just forget. And it's such a shame. Like, I feel like we can learn so much from children because, like, they're not concerned about, well, hopefully your child isn't overly concerned about anything and they're just living their lives. Like, everything's fun, everything's something we're learning and curious about. And then all of a sudden we become adults and we're supposed to, like, yeah, be perfect. And we can't learn how to make honey garlic wings or we can't decide that we're going to change how we operate in our household because, oh, everyone's used to this one way that I behave. And it's like, it just doesn't have to be like that. We're learning every freaking day. We're evolving every freaking day. It's okay to say, hey, this isn't actually working for me anymore. I'm going to experiment with what is working for me. And if people love you, like they will support you. Like and most of us, like I can speak to this, I've created, like when I said I was making meals for what my partner wanted to eat, there was absolutely no expectation on his part that I do that. I made that up. And then me choosing to eat and nourish my body properly, he's just like, yes, this is great. You should have been doing this the whole fucking time. And I'm like, yeah, like what was I doing? And then something else, you were talking about making a meal for your friend. And then I was going to say, like, you know what's so interesting is like when you start to heal within, weird things start to happen without. And like you just want to talk a little bit about being kind of in your town, new there, kind of isolated, and
Mm.
all of a sudden you just started loving every minute of it. And then every minute of it started getting better in ways you didn't even expect.
Yeah. So I moved to a new town, I guess almost like over a year ago. And like I still worked where I worked before. So I still had all my friends there, but like I didn't like know anybody where I was moving. So it was a very impulsive decision, but it ended up proving to be very great for me. And so once I started to like heal my relationship with myself and like slow down and appreciate everything, and everything that we've been talking about, it just kind of like all of a sudden again another stepping stone, another like natural evolution was that like my relationships and like my external life started to like improve. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like once I like could appreciate my life with me, all of a sudden my best friend decided to move to Moose Jaw with me.
Like out of
Like
the
not
blue.
that out of the blue. It's not like it was just for me, but like that just happened, you know? And like
Mm-hmm.
this has like been amazing, you know, because like it's a beautiful town. Moose Jaw is. If anyone is not from Saskatchewan, it's a beautiful town.
Mm-hmm.
It is like old and spooky and has so much culture and it's awesome. It's so adorable. But like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to like fully experience it because I like felt restricted because I didn't want to do everything by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have her here and I have like more connections at work and I have this like book community, you know, I have all of a sudden these like
Mm-hmm.
new beautiful connections in my life and I feel like you know, like me and you were closer than ever. And like
Mm-hmm.
just all of a sudden, all of my relationships in my life had just kind of like bloomed, you know, like all of the ones that
Yeah.
are like the most valuable and add the most to my life, like they have just kind of like naturally improved once
Yeah.
I like started to just like kind of more authentically be myself. Crazy
Yeah.
how that works.
I know it is. And then even like I know you're not interested in pursuing a relationship, like you're loving your single life, but like
Yeah.
also there's been a ridiculous amount of people interested in dating you. And I know that's not like the goal here, but it just goes to show you what happens
Yeah.
within you gets experienced with like on the outside of you. And like yeah, so
Exactly.
much has happened so fast again, but like that natural progression. You didn't
Yeah.
try to create this. It's just all of a sudden you were like, you're like magnetic, right? Because you love
Yeah.
yourself. And then everyone's just like, wow, like look at this. And friends are coming back and like connections are just easier. And like, yeah, everybody wants to marry you.
Yeah. And I like, again, it's so honestly like having like to explicitly talk about all this stuff, it's like it makes me realize just how much actually has changed over the course of
Mhm.
like a you know relatively short period of time. And yeah, like the like I really do value like my single life right now, but like yeah, like there's definitely been like this increase of people like you know pursuing me or like just
Mhm.
even like you know, like I'll go out and all of a sudden I just feel like, you know, because I'm so like much more comfortable being authentic, I feel like people can pick up on that, you
Yeah.
know? And that's like just naturally like alluring to a lot of people, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
So
And then
yeah.
when you're just like being yourself, it just generally speaking, it's like, yeah, people can sense it. And like, again, you're not like embodying what Pinterest, like I used to be a waitress. Okay. So I'll just share this little story. I used to be a waitress, and sometimes people would come in that would be like a little bit younger than me, like maybe just 18 or 19 or whatever. And all the guys looked exactly the same, and all the girls looked exactly the same. I would literally have to like write down, like, okay, pink shirt, glasses, blue hat, because I couldn't like recognize them because they were following the trends so specifically. There wasn't a lot of authenticity there.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like when I think about you, like you have this ability to blend like such cool energy because you're just being authentic. Like you have it's just if anyone doesn't know my sister, she has like long blonde goddess hair. Okay. And she's like got these bright eyes and she's very like beautiful and like quaint, I guess. But then also she like loves tattoos and like edgy stuff. So she somehow blends these two like mermaids and like edgy people. And you're like how did you do that? And so she's like covered in amazing artwork. She knows how to like dress, and she just blends these energies. You have your septum pierced and you just blend these energies. And it's hard like not to pay attention. You're like, who is this goddess? Like, what the fuck's going on here?
Oh my God. Well, thank you. I know. I feel like and something also like so again like being in like a healthcare profession is like sometimes it feels very like cookie cutter like it feels like that there's like a specific lifestyle you're supposed to leave like you're supposed to be a nurse for 25 plus years and you're supposed to get married and pop out a bunch of babies and you know like it just feels like that there's this kind of like lifestyle that kind of is around it
Mhm.
a lot of times and it feels very like normal sometimes, you know? And then so to like break away from that stereotype that I like kind of put myself in by becoming a nurse, like it's totally made up. It's all in my head. This is in no way, shape, or form holds really tons of value, but it's like that's how I viewed it, you know? And then so to be able to like step out of that too and to be able to just be like, you know what, like all of my tattoos, all of my piercings, like that doesn't mean anything in my workplace, you know, like to be able to like get rid of that kind of like
Mhm.
stereotype that I made up. And then like, yeah, so I feel like that was also part of it. And like, yeah, it's also been this past, like, again, like the past couple of months, like, I just feel like I was just like, who says that I can't just like wear these like mismatching like patterns, or who says I can't just like wear this like colorful septum ring? Like, there's literally nothing anywhere that says that that's something I can't do. Like, I can just like have fun with what I'm wearing, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's not about how it looks, it's about how it makes me feel. It's about like, how can I express myself through what I'm wearing, or what I'm
Mhm.
like deciding to put on for jewelry, or like, and that's been like another really important like change for me, because like, I
Mhm.
mean, everybody does it. Like, you go out to go shopping, or like you're trying on an outfit for the night, and you're like, this looks really good, I like this, and then you ask your friends and you're like, oh, like what do you think? And they're like, oh, I like the other one, but like you like the one that you're wearing better. And
Mhm.
like all of a sudden you listen to their opinion instead of your own. Like, how
Yeah.
does that make any sense? Like, it just doesn't. You know, like when you think
Yeah.
about it objectively, like if you like what you're wearing and it makes you feel good, like what does it matter what the other person is thinking, you know? And so kind of
Exactly.
like letting go of that has not been another thing that helps you like, or helped me anyways, like embrace who I am. And then just like, yeah, again, like another natural progression of like, when you're more authentic in yourself, like you just like portray this like air of like authentic, and like you're kind of more confident because you feel like yourself. And that's like the most empowering way to feel, I would say.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like relaying my memories right now. And I'm like, when did I feel like the most confident in my entire life? And it was definitely when I lived in Colorado because A, no one knew me. And I was able to every day just show up like exactly as I was because I didn't have anyone to impress or I didn't know anybody, you know? And I remember just like doing things because I wanted to do them or wearing things because I liked them. And it wasn't like, oh, is this approved on Pinterest, or is this like, you call your girlfriend, she's like, what are you wearing tonight? I want to be
Yeah.
on the same vibe as you. And it's like, fuck it, like just do what you're doing. And Colorado is such like, or when I was the town I was in, it was such a sporty place. It was like mountain towns, right? So like
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, what's trendy. It was just like what's functionable. We're gonna be outside, then we're gonna be at the pub, then we're gonna go snowboarding, then we're gonna do this. And it was like just function. And I just felt so good. And I'm not like sad or anything that I live in my hometown, but it's like coming back, there's this expectation of who you are. And it's like no, like I was happiest when none of that shit mattered and I just got to be myself every day. And I think like it's worthy to bring that up because it's such a soul sucking thing to do is be what everyone expects you to be or not let yourself evolve naturally or try new things because of XYZ or being too critical or it's not approved on Pinterest or what will my girlfriends or what my family think if I suddenly am a different person. And it's like a shame, really.
Honestly, and like it seems so daunting, you know, like it's like, how do I go from point A to point B type of thing? But it ends up like it's just like those little changes you make and those little things that you pay attention to that make you feel good. And it just all of a sudden you naturally evolve into like this like more authentic version of who you are. And like this is like super like typical, but it's so true, is like anybody who can't accept the most authentic version of you, and if they can't like take you for who you really are, then like they are not worthy of being in your life. And like that's a loss that should probably happen anyways. You know, it seems
Yeah.
kind of harsh, but it's the truth. Like, and I feel like that's something that is like super scary, but like again, like kind of as my journey has gone on, like people who like I kind of like lost touch with have like kind of resurfaced and like have become like some of my closest friends, you know, once you kind of
Yeah.
like realize who you are, like it just kind of naturally happens that like the people who are meant for you will find you type of
I
thing.
was gonna say, like, I think everybody has this fear that, like, if I do become my most authentic self, I will lose all the people who know me
Yeah.
as my inauthentic self. And then I will be alone on this adventure. And nobody wants to be alone. Like, humans are
No.
social animals. We don't want to be alone. I don't care how you spin it. So then there's this fear of what will people think and will I be kicked out of the pack? But like, it's not like that, right? What happens inside of you happens outside of you. And what happens is like exactly what happened to you. You start magnetizing all these people that like want you to win.
Yeah.
And it's just wild. Like I have went through so many evolutions. Like I think I still have a few more to go. Like I think I've made some big progress, but I'm like in the I feel like I'm in the altering phase. Like I'm in transition. I'm in expansion. And I can't fucking wait to see what comes out on the other side of this. But I've been through so much and I have lost friends and connections. But you know what? In retrospect, those were the people that made me feel fucking shitty about myself every single day of my life because I wasn't a Pinterest board or I didn't want to do what they wanted to do. Or I thought that, I'm so much more happy not having to put myself in those boxes and like appease my friends by being XYZ. And now I can just be myself and people either love it or not. And it's like I found some surprising friendships that I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting. And I'm like, this is way better. You can just be your fucking self all day. Yes.
Right. I know. I'm so excited to see like where you come out on the other side of this evolution because I think it's gonna be so fucking beautiful. I'm so excited. And
I
like
know. I'm very
it's
excited.
so true about how it just kind of like you just like it surprises you about like who you end up finding and connecting with and like being in those like interactions and those spaces and those friendships where like you leave feeling so good,
Mm-hmm.
instead of drained and judged and exhausted, like it is surprising. And I think it's like, yeah, like right now when you're in it, like it's kind of hard to like see you're like, oh, but that's my best friend or like that's someone who I really like feel like I connect with, but as you grow and step into your authentic self, you kind of like have that like, hindsight's 2020, you kind of look back and you're like, oh, but like it, like it kind of like you have this like insight to be like, oh, maybe it wasn't always as good as I thought it was when I was in it. So it's like that trust in like the universe and whatever it is that you believe in, that like whoever is meant for you like will be with you when you're the most authentic self, and any
Yeah.
connections that you lose, like it's meant to be type of thing, and those
Yeah.
aren't the people that like are meant to be with you, type of thing. And like
Exactly.
that is something that like I feel
And
like
like,
is true.
what a whirlwind of self-love. Like I'm seeing just like how everything like give and takes to each other. So slowing down and like appreciating our life and being like, oh, like, wow, like I really love this for me. I'm really proud and happy with how far I've come and who I've become. And then it like makes us stronger in who we are. And then we feel like, because authenticity and even creativity really comes from the heart. So putting it out there for everyone to see is like really vulnerable. Like I love to paint. I know how to play guitar a little bit. And it's like that's stuff from my heart that I want to share with people, but it scares the living shit out of me to do that because I haven't like fortified my foundation of self-love. Like if I just love myself like unhinged, I'd be like, yeah, I don't actually care what you think about the creations I've made with my heart. So it's like then all of a sudden you've slowed down, you've loved yourself, you've appreciated your life, then you feel more confident to share your authenticity, to share your creativity, but then your authenticity and your creativity being expressed makes you love yourself more, and it just fucking grows like this beast that's out of control. And like, is that not at the end of the day what we want the most? Is just to stop hating ourselves so much and feel strong and sovereign in our lives. I swear to God, everything that we do that sucks is because we don't love ourselves. We stay in crappy relationships. We say no to these things. We say no to this thing. We deny ourselves our expression because at the end of the day, we don't think there's anything in there worthy of expressing, and we have everything to lose because we're not somehow good enough.
Yeah, honestly, that was like a really perfect way to describe like the kind of like evolution of how it happens. And it's just like, I think it's such a daunting task, when it's like it, to be like drilled into like, oh, just love yourself, and it seems like really hard to just achieve that. But it's like, it starts so small, just like, yeah, the slowing down, appreciating, it all just kind of like naturally snowballs one thing into the next. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, like here I am,
Yeah.
and yeah, like that's the goal in life, like you said, like is to just have that like feeling that like of like just liking who you are and loving who you are, you know? And
Yeah.
that is like the most powerful magic out there, I swear.
And it's like to love and be loved for exactly who you are.
Yeah,
Is that not the goal? Like,
exactly. You know, and I think, like you said, is that like the everyone, you know, including myself and you, and probably a lot of people out there listening, have this fear and have this like belief that like if they are who they authentically are, that like people won't love them and people won't see them and that they won't be appreciated for who they are, you know, and it just is like that's such a shitty belief to have. And it's really like hard that like I feel like so much of our like society and has that, you know, but it's
yeah,
also just like not true because the right people will always love you for who you are. And
yeah.
like it has to start with you, right? Like if you don't believe that and if you don't embody that, then like nobody else will either, you know?
Yeah, like the universe just responds to what you believe to be true. The universe wants to give you the experience that you're choosing. It's like, yeah, if that's how you want to be, here's more, here's more, here's more.
Yeah.
But the crappy thing is most of us are choosing to negate ourselves and make ourselves smaller and conform and deny our authenticity. And I think we all do it because we think that's the path to love.
Yes.
But when we actually evaluate our lives, I think it's pretty easy to say that that doesn't lead you there, that your cup still feels empty. So it's like, what's the harm in trying it the other way, where it's like we fill up our cup and we love ourselves and we are willing to slow down and appreciate and do things for ourselves and then see where that leads us. Because at this point, a lot of us don't have anything left to lose.
Yeah. It just is like, I feel like there's like a quote that you see out there and it's like in a world that is like thriving and like benefiting off of you like conforming, it's like it is like a huge feat to like just be yourself, you know, and like
Yes.
that's the route that like is going to serve us the most. It just is like we have to choose that like we're worthy of that, you know.
Exactly. And I think it is important to note that the world is really invested, or society is very invested in keeping you predictable because
Yeah.
it can predict where you spend your money. It can control where you spend your money. And it's like there's just so many people and things that profit off of you not being yourself. So if you are someone who's way over here in left field, not able to express yourself authentically, like don't beat yourself up about it because the world's really trying to keep you there. But
Yeah.
like every choice you make to that like embodiment of your true self, like man, what like a protest to a society that yeah doesn't want you there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's not like even, you know, talking about it on this podcast, like I always like I had a hard time even seeing like just how far I've come, but it's like because it was just such little small changes along the way
Mm-hmm.
that I had these really big breakthroughs, but it's like still it was just like these little kind of changes that have all of a sudden I'm sitting here now being like, holy shit, yeah, like that's a really big change from where I was like 6, 9 months ago, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like I don't want to also like make it seem like it happens overnight or that it's like these big changes that are like always so bold and big and daunting and it seems like scary to do it. It's like literally just the littlest things end up like cultivating this like change in belief and this like different view of your life over time, you know?
That's so true. Ah, I
Yeah.
love it. Well, thanks so much. This was a freaking amazing. We captured so much more than I even expected, which is amazing. So if people want to see the creations that you're making online with your Bookstagram, how can they find you?
So I'm just on Instagram and it's under Dead Romantic Reader. It's inspired by my one of my favorite books this year. So if you haven't read that book, go read it. It's called The Dead Romantics. It is amazing. So
Ooh,
that's
I
what it's
love it.
inspired by. Yeah.
Okay, I will put it in the comments and the notes for people to follow. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite, sis. I appreciate it.